Welcome back to Autism for Badass Moms, the podcast where it is okay to be your true badass self. And listen, ladies out there, I am so excited about our guest today. You guys have competition. Our guest today has flown out with her husband from Vegas. You heard it right, Las Vegas. And, I'm in Jersey. And I'm just so excited that she thought so highly enough to want to come in person to be here. So with that said, I want to introduce you to Susie, who is that mom. So welcome, Susie, to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, let's just talk about Vegas, right? 'Cause I have never been to Vegas. And Vegas, I think about it being like really hot, and is that usually...
I mean, it is hot, but just like anywhere, I guess you just adapt to it. So I moved there for the heat because I hate being cold. So growing up in Kansas and living in Colorado, I was ready to live somewhere warmer.
Take that dive.
Yeah, I can't handle cold. So that's kind of why I left and went there, just for more opportunities. And Vegas has that, of course, because there's a million casinos. So, and within those, there's tons of opportunity. So, and I was just tired of living in a small town. So here I am.
And Vegas is not a small town.
No, it's definitely not.
So let's talk about your journey with autism. You have 3 children.
Yes.
Okay. So take us back to prior to the diagnosis and what's been going on.
Okay, well, where do I start? I could talk forever about all of my kids, of course, but my journey, I feel like it's special because I have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is 19. His name is Caydell. He struggles with, he was diagnosed with ADD.
Okay.
And he struggles with his mental health. There's been a lot of struggles with him as far as just depression, and I know ADD kind of stuck in the way of a lot of his struggles, and I kind of feel bad sometimes because I didn't really recognize it fully. I'm just like, okay, you have ADD, I'm going to get you an IEP through school and, get you all the help you can to help you be able to, progress through school. And there were, he had an incident where he had a suicide note, and he self-harmed as well. So struggling with that was a challenge. And then we have another son. He is 7 now. Okay. So the oldest is 19.
Oh, wow. 19, 7.
19 and then 7. And then he's Mr. Smarty Pants. So, but he struggles with sensory processing disorder a little bit. We didn't recognize that until after Saya was born, which she is the youngest, and that's our daughter. She's 5, and she was diagnosed with autism. So we had her diagnosed when she was 22 months, so right before she turned 2. But we saw the signs at about 18 months with her, and she was not, there was like everything that she wasn't doing. And when we went to her doctor's visit for the 18-month checkup, that was when they basically, he saw a little bit of eye contact, but not much. And then the doctor was like, okay, and she wasn't talking, of course, so he was like, let's get her into Nevada Early Intervention Services and get that started. And I said, okay. And then he said, I'm gonna have you fill out this questionnaire, just so I can have it in her folder. He said, I just want to make sure that we have it. And I said, okay. So he said, just fill it out and leave it here. So I filled it out, didn't know what it was. All the questions.
Just filling it, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so does she do this? No. Does she do this? No. And then I was like, basically almost everything on the checklist, like we marked off. And I was like, what does that mean? I was just kind of confused. And so I left it there. And then when I came back home, he called me right away. And he said, I didn't realize that she checked off on that many things on the list. He said, so we're basically definitely get her started with Nevada Early Intervention Services, but then we'll go from there. That's kind of all he said. And we love her pediatrician. But when I started thinking about it, and I'm like, he called me, like he was alerted by something. And so I was like, what was the thing that I just filled out? And so I searched and found that it was the MCHAT screening. And then he never once said the word autism. But once I started doing my research and realized, okay, this is probably autism, what we're looking at, not just that she's delayed and, and so like literally from that point is when I started doing all the research I could and read everything and bought everything just to help, just because I wasn't going to be the mom in denial. I didn't want to be that mom. And I felt like if I didn't start doing something now, then it was probably just going to, get worse and not help her. So
now, had you had an experience with autism before? Was it something that was on your radar? Like,
I honestly not really up to that point. I think I had somebody, I can't even remember who, but I do remember somebody saying, like, do you think maybe she has autism or something? And it really was kind of just one of those things that I just kind of pushed aside, and I was like, no, I don't think so. We'll see what the doctor says, why she's not talking right now. And we even were trying to do sign language with her because we did sign language with our middle boy.
Okay.
And he picked up on it so quick that he was doing sign language before he could talk. And so we were like, oh, this is great. And I had kind of just did it because I heard somebody say, like, it's really a good thing. And I was so young when I had my oldest that I didn't do anything with him. I don't even think I read a book to him. I feel bad now. I'm like, maybe that's why he was, like, struggling in school because I didn't read to him, but... and so the sign language with her was a struggle too. And it was like, she would throw a fit anytime you tried to do hand over hand, and she just was like, stop touching me, Yeah. So it was a struggle. And sometimes we would give up and I'd be like, I'm just trying to get her to just say, please, and I'm like, it's so simple. Just do this. It's okay. And she'd just
wasn't not having it.
No. So I was like, I don't know why she won't do sign language either, and so it was hard. I have a nephew who had autism, has autism. He's in his 20s now, but I moved away, and so I wasn't really around him much after I moved. So I didn't get to fully experience it, and I mean, he came over to my house, but I left, and because when I moved from Kansas, I actually went to Colorado first. So when I went there, I wasn't really around him anymore. So
And so autism, you hear the words. What were you feeling at that time?
Basically, I think when I was at home and doing my own research before the doctor even like told me autism, I just started doing my own research, and then I thought, okay, well, this explains everything, because with her, the probably the biggest struggle was sleep with her.
Okay.
And I mean, we went through so much because I was just like, why will this child not sleep, And I thought, okay, by the time she gets to be at least 1, maybe she'll sleep. No. And then I was like, by the time she's 2, maybe she'll sleep. No. And I'm just like, so as soon as the whole autism thing started coming and I was researching, like food was a struggle, of course, and sleep was a struggle, and then of course the speech delay. So I told my husband, I said, okay, I think we should try to just see if we can get her diagnosed, and he agreed, and so we made an appointment, which was only a 4-month wait. So I was like, that's not too bad. And so we had this appointment scheduled, and we went to get her diagnosed. And I can remember us both thinking on the way there, I said, I just hope they diagnose her and not push us to the side and just, say, oh, it's just speech delay. We both saw, as we did all of our own research, we both saw, like, it's definitely autism. So there was no questions asked. People would be like, well, she doesn't look autistic. And I'm like, I hate those words. Those are the worst, because I'm like, they don't look, I don't know
That's
if people...
so cringe. Yeah, we cringe with that.
Right. I'm like, do you think that it's the same as a different disability? I'm like, they don't look it's inside,
Mm-hmm.
And so I just told my husband, and he said the same thing. Like, let's just hopefully we just tell them everything about her, because even if they don't see it when we're there at the appointment, we tell them everything. So we literally made a list of everything.
Nice. That's good.
And yeah, and so when we went there, we just laid it all out on the table, and any questions he asked, it was pretty much, and so he said, yeah, she definitely has autism. And so from there, I know I started just, okay, what can I buy to help teach her? I bought my own little high chair that's like her learning high chair, and I all the learning stuff for autism was in this box, and I'd get it out and I'd sit at home and do everything I could with her, because of course it was also like during COVID and, all of that. So that was the time when we saw the sensory processing disorder with my middle son.
Oh.
And that was when things started to click with him. He can't handle loud sounds, loud noises. Elevators and escalators are a struggle for him. And so all of that started to come together, and the pediatrician even was like, okay, well, if your oldest has ADD, he probably has a little bit of sensory processing for the middle one, and then your daughter has autism. So they're all very closely related, and I realized that after each diagnosis for each child,
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
COVID was a lot too. You have your oldest son who's struggling with the mental health and the attention issues. Your second son, it seems like there was something there that, weren't really sure.
Yeah.
And then it was a sensory processing that you were dealing with. And then you have, your youngest, who, again, you and your husband were on top of it. Like, we think this is what this is. But how did you navigate? That's a lot of diagnoses.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I look back now and I realize I tried to do a lot just myself. And I really did I would come home and I'd be like, okay, I need to spend an hour with her, like trying to teach her whatever I can teach her. We had Nevada early intervention coming in home.
Okay.
In masks and everything during COVID. And so I'm like, how is she going to be able to like see your lips and know, like,
Yeah.
or even doing speech, like, over Zoom. I'm like, my daughter is not going to sit in front of this camera and try to do a Zoom speech therapy session. And so we had in home.
Okay.
And so that helped, because they basically worked with me and taught me like what I could do. So then I felt obligated every day, like, to try to set aside at least an hour to do that with her, on top of, still trying to spend time with the other two, make sure my oldest didn't need to talk to me about anything or have a breakdown, and then still, of course, trying to be there for my husband. It's I don't know how I navigated it. I just did it, I think, and I was just, I don't know, on pilot. I don't know. I just kept, every day I was like, I got to do what I got to do.
Did there ever come a point where it was it's too much? Like,
definitely. There were plenty of those days where I would just probably finally sit down and just cry, because I'm like, I don't even know if what I'm doing is working. I don't know if it's helping. It was definitely a struggle. And I think the struggle came probably when I realized my older son really having the mental health problems. That was probably the hardest for me, because then I felt like, was I not giving him enough attention? What else could I have done to help him? And I kind of just at one point was like, I don't even know what else can I do? I was like, maybe he just needs to see a therapist. So we tried that. And then, my daughter, I was like, kind of at a standstill with her too at that same time, because ABA therapy we only had like for a couple of months, and then insurance changed. So then we were back on a different waiting list for ABA. So we still haven't gotten her back into ABA. And then sometimes I'm like, did I do the right thing for that? There's always that question of like, should I have her in ABA? She does go to preschool. She's in pre-K at the actual school district, and this is her 3rd year now of doing that, and she's progressed a lot. And so I try to just say, okay, well, I did that for her, and she is progressing, and so I try to not take it to heart, because that doesn't help anything.
But that's a lot, and I think it is a common thing that, as moms in general, that we always go to the, could I have done more?
Right.
Did I miss out on this? Should I have X, Y, and Z? How did I not see the signs and things like that? And to the point of can be debilitating.
Yeah. Definitely.
Debilitating, and not wanting to do anything, and feeling of numbness. But you did do something, right? Like, you did go into action to help your son with his needs. But how long what do you think you had to do in order to be able to navigate? Because again, that can affect our mental health, dealing with our children's developmental needs and mental health.
Yeah. I think when I finally just realized that I don't have to do it all, I think that definitely helped. My husband, thank God, he's the cook in the house. So
can I just stop here? So her husband also came down, and we're so excited. He's in the room supporting her. So I just want to shout you out. You can say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, he's in the background. He's in the cut. So we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So I think knowing that I don't have to do everything was probably the part that helped me the most.
How did you get to that place, though? Like, to know that I don't have to do everything?
I probably just got to a point where I just knew it was too much. Okay. And just finally knowing that if I took some of this weight off of my shoulders, that I could help everyone easier. Especially my daughter. And honestly, it's not even like I have like other people coming in my home and helping me. I think it was just knowing that even if I don't sit with her for an hour at night, like it's okay. She's going to school, knowing that the teachers are doing whatever they can to help her. And we do go to speech and occupational therapy once a week now. And so she has great therapists there.
Okay.
And so just knowing that what they are doing is enough for her, and that whatever else I do, but I think I just needed to make it where I didn't have to feel like an hour each night I literally, it was like, okay, this is like a schedule, and I would come home and I would sit down, and then I would be like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And then she's not cooperating. She doesn't want anything to do with, just finally knowing that the other people that are helping her are there for a reason, and that I could just be her mom and love her and do fun things with her, and that is still teaching her, and I think that was the part that just kind of just triggered in my head, like a light bulb went off, and was like, you don't have to be her teacher, like sitting her at the high chair learning table, You
had it set, though.
I did. I mean, I was trying really hard, and I think, and I do look back and I know that when I was doing that at the time, it was helping her. But it was a lot, especially with work and all of that too. So I was like, okay, if I just do what I can, it's okay.
And you're one person managing. It's one thing to have one child, right, with various needs, but to have 3 children with working, being a wife, that's you're one person.
Yeah.
To have to navigate that.
Yeah, and I think we forget as moms that we don't have to do everything. For whatever reason, I think every mom probably weighs on our shoulders that we do feel like we have to do everything. And I feel like sometimes the emotional part is probably what's the hardest for us as moms. And I realize that having 2 boys and of course a husband, like they think differently than we do, So it's like my oldest is the sweetest boy I've ever met, and so I see a lot of traits in him that he's very like nurturing. And so, but then there will be times where I'm like, okay, but you're still a boy, you still don't understand. Like, you don't understand how mom feels in certain situations, I'm always going to worry. And, A situation just happened actually before coming out here. He rides a motorcycle. And so you know that I could see it on your face, the worry.
I'm looking right in the camera again.
So worry is just always in us, right?
Yeah.
And of course, he did get into his first motorcycle accident.
Oh, wow.
He's okay. He just broke his radius, but it was a minor accident, so it wasn't like he was being crazy and going fast.
Yeah.
And but he did get into an accident, and so he's in a cast right now. But on our way home from picking him up from the hospital, my husband was at work, so I loaded up the two little ones. I was like, we got to go to the hospital. And my middle boy was like, what? Is he okay? I said, he's okay. Just let's go, And of course, every outing with my daughter is hard. And so I thought in my head, how are we going to, going to the doctor's office the day before was a nightmare with her.
So you're thinking
now we're going to the emergency room. Like, I don't even know. So I always pack a bag for her, of course, extra clothes, extra diapers, pull-ups, extra wipes.
Extra
everything, snacks, because she doesn't eat anything but what we have at home. So I load up the backpack for her, and I tell my 7-year-old, I say, load up your backpack, get everything you need. And so he does his own thing, and thank God for that, because, I don't have to pack his bag too. I say, get your sister's water bottle, get everything, let's go. We got to go get brother. And so we go to the emergency room, and just driving around in the parking lot trying to find a place to park, she's screaming.
Yeah.
Like, she already knew we were somewhere she didn't want to be. And that is challenging, because I'm trying to, okay, brother, are you okay? And he's texting me. He's like, I'm okay. I'm just waiting in the ER, in the lobby. I'm
But
like,
your
okay.
mom, right? You're still like, I need to see you.
Yeah. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm trying to park. We'll come in. I have to get the stroller out, put her in the stroller, because she just does better in the stroller. Get her iPad, get the other one's iPad, and okay, let's go. So we get in there to get brother, and I guess she just knew she needed to behave. And she sat next to her other brother, both brothers. She just sat there and played on her iPad and ate her snacks, and she was fine. There's no problems. And so I guess she just knew, I have to act right.
In your mind, you're like, oh, this could go all wrong.
Right.
We've had experience, and she was just like, no, I know I
need to behave. Yeah. My mom's, okay, brother's arm is broken, and mom needs to take care of brother. So it was a blessing, because I needed to be there for him. And just those situations that happen, and I did have to do it all by myself that time, but I knew, okay, 7-year-old Mugen is his name. Mugen, you can take care of sister and help and do what you need. Grab the water bottles. Let's go. Everybody's just, we work together, I guess,
Yeah,
and he's a blessing to have. And sometimes, him being the middle child, I feel like he's got to get the credit too, because
Mugen, yes.
He takes care of his sister a lot, and he helps out a lot. So he's so cute sometimes, the things he'll say about her, and you could tell they just have such a good bond, and the love he has for his sister is amazing. So I feel like teaching him just to love and care for his sister is all I have to do, and he'll take care of the rest, that
so
sibling
beautiful.
love. So
That's so beautiful. Now, again, going back to that, it is overwhelming to be navigating, various diagnoses, medical conditions for some moms that are out there. Do you delegate? Because some moms struggle with delegating, hey, or even asking for help. I need help with this.
Yeah, I know I definitely struggle with that. I don't always ask for help. I'll just do. And then I know sometimes my husband will be like, okay, you're doing too much. Just calm down, and he'll kind of, certain things he'll do to snap me back into place. I feel like I was never diagnosed with ADD, but definitely I see it now in my children and with myself. And sometimes my husband will be like, are you even paying attention? What's, and so just that alone.
And when we know it is genetic.
Yeah.
It's genetic.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think I don't always ask for help, but I think sometimes my husband can see, like, when he knows, like, okay, something's going on, like, what do we need to do? And he'll take over and he'll just, okay, I got dinner, don't worry, or sometimes he'll know, like, that's the thing I hate the most is cooking. So I can cook and I will cook. So if he has to work a night shift and it's going
You
to
added that
be
disclaimer, like, I can cook.
right. I can. I don't want anyone to think that I can't, because I definitely can. But I usually, and a lot of times it's just cooking when he works late. It's just me cooking for literally me and my 7-year-old. The 19-year-old will be like, I don't care, I'm gonna eat whatever.
Right.
Sometimes he'll eat what we're eating. Most of the time he doesn't really care. He'll eat before he even leaves work to come home. So then he's like, I already ate dinner. So it'll literally be just me cooking a meal for me and Mugen doesn't really care for food either. So he's like, Mom, can we just have burgers? Or, can we just have spaghetti? It's like, so I'll just cook something very simple. So I'm in the kitchen for 30 minutes or less, and then I'm done. Because I guess that probably is because of everything else that I do, And so the dinners definitely help. Make sure.
So I think about, being good enough. And I feel like we struggle. I was just talking to a mom about, there's periods of times where it's just like, we get down on ourselves about, oh, I dropped the ball here. Or how did I forget this? I honestly have sent my kids in pajamas to school thinking it was pajama day more times than not. But I will get so upset with myself. They're like, cool, like, yeah, it was a pajama day. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have to walk around in pajamas. But we do that. And so what does that mean to you with regards to like being good enough? Do you see yourself as that? Do you struggle with that?
I think I've gone through different stages. And it probably happens more when something serious is happening. Like when my son was struggling with his self-harm and all of that. I'm like, I'm not good enough. I didn't teach him right. I didn't, do the right things. And so during those times, I definitely felt like I was a failure. And if you ask me now and today, I am enough. I am good enough. And honestly, probably listening to all of your podcasts is probably what got me to there. And I remember the one time listening and at the end of your episodes when you ask like if anybody wants to, be a part of the show, I finally told myself like I am one of these moms and I definitely belong on the show because I know I've struggled and I know I've gone through my own problems, but just realizing from hearing everyone else's stories that I'm not the only one who's struggled. And I see where my kids are now, and even my daughter, she's just came so far, and I know it's because of what I've done for her. And so I know I am a badass mom.
Yes, yes.
And so I feel like, yes, that I do enough. Of course, there's probably those days where, of course, we're always going to have those days where you feel like, okay, well, today maybe wasn't so great,
Yeah.
Today maybe they spent more time on the iPad than needed, but I feel the iPads and screen times and all of that are part of the reason why my daughter has finally said her first words or her first sentences. And so I'm like, if she wants to sit and watch her show over and over again, I'm going to let her because she's finally going to repeat those words. And I'm okay with that, because I'll sit here and talk to her all day. And she's like, nope, not going to say any words to you, Mom. I don't care. And so just the fact that the screen time does get her to talk, I'm okay with it.
Did you ever find yourself comparing another mom and what she may be doing, and why is that child further than my child in this area?
Definitely. That's probably one of the things that I had to get myself out of at one point, because, I would sit and think, I have a niece who's 1 week apart from my daughter. So my daughter was born first and then my niece was born a week later. And So sometimes I would even hear my brother saying, you know, where she's at, and just her talking or them sending me a video. And I love my niece and I love my brother.
Yeah.
But it's hard sometimes because if my daughter's not talking, you know, then it can be really hard. And it's really hard too when the 7-year-old will be like, Mom, I don't know why she's not talking yet. And I'm like, it's okay, you know, and then he knows now. And so it's cute because he'll say, it's okay because she's autistic. And it's okay, Mom, you know, and he'll say that, and he knows, and he's so smart. So just knowing that it is okay. And sometimes he reminds me of that. And that's really important because we do compare as moms. We will always compare, and we have to remember we have our own child, and they have their own progress, their achievements, everything. And so I just finally said, you know what, my daughter is my daughter, and I love her, and she's beautiful, and she's going to progress in her own way. So her first sentence that she said probably about a month ago was, I take bath. And I'm like, you never said any of those words. I never heard you say I, never heard you say take, and never heard you say bath. And you just made a sentence. And it was from watching Cocomelon on her iPad. So I was like, okay. And she knew what she was talking about, too, because I came out of the shower and she's standing there in the bathroom looking at me. She usually will always lay on my bed and wait for me to get out of the shower. And she would just lay on my bed and watch Cocomelon. And she'll just sit there. And I got out and she was standing right by the shower. And I was like, what are you doing? And I'm drying off. And she said, I take bath. I literally, my jaw dropped. And I looked at her and I was like, wait, what did you just say? She said, I take bath. And she's pulling down her shorts and just, okay, yes, you can take a bath. And it was just amazing to me. So, just all of her progress is, I never take anything for granted. You know, she might not say that word again. She might not say that sentence again, but I got it at that moment, and I finally caught it on camera so I could record it.
Like, so everybody knows she really did say that.
Right. She was like, she tried to cheat and say bath. And I was like, no. No,
now I know you know.
Right. So now we're going to say it. And so I made her finally stop, and she said it again. So it's heartwarming to know that even the little things I've done for her have helped her. And just knowing that I am good enough for my children.
And I wanted to share because I was thinking about, I think we all compare in some way, in some part of this journey of, autism. And I used to, again, and it's cyclical grief, right? Like another child, same age as your child growing up, and you see what the typical behaviors would be, and you feel like you're missing out on, well, maybe my child would have been doing X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And for my 14-year-old, he is, non-speaking. He's got an AAC device, and, he's like 70% on that and that. And I'm just like, there's times where I'm just like, why is my son not talking? Did I not do enough? Did I not get intensive enough? Because then I start listening to other people. Well, we right away, and we did this, and we did. And, so I would go through my little lull of a period. But then something would happen. I feel like that puts us back in check. Yeah. So recently, the teacher emailed me saying, oh, your son, he did a commercial. I'm like, commercial? Did I get rights to a commercial? Like, what? Commercial. And she's like, yeah, he did a commercial. I'm going to send you the video. And so for a commercial for their class. Okay. And so I didn't know what to expect. And so the opening scene, he touches his AAC device and it says, the shop is open for coffee. And I just started bawling. And then I started sending it to people, and I'm like, oh my God, there's other kids in the video. I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to send this, But it was just things like that, right? Like that he was able to point and touch that, and it just it was just beautiful.
Yes.
And so I'm just like telling moms out there that there are your child is your child, just like you said.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Like everybody's trajectory is different, and to compare is, just not giving them credit for what they can, and will be able to do in the future. Because there's things that I'm sure your daughter's doing that another mom out there was like, I wish my daughter would do this.
Yeah. I think the main thing when she was younger, because she's 5 now, when she was younger, the main thing that was really hard was just like, I just want to hear her say mom, and I never realized how important that was because my other kids spoke that, like, it was like the first word they said. And so like just hearing mom or dad or, those little words. And so it did come for her, and I'm thankful for that because, that was the one thing that I wanted. And so in that moment when she wasn't saying it, I really had to just stop. And like you said, put yourself back in perspective and say, like, she's not saying it right now, but she knows who I am and she loves me, and that's okay. So I don't have to hear her say it. But when I did, it was like,
I'm sure it was just like melting.
Yes. And that's one word she doesn't really use that much. So it's okay. I got it a few times. I'm like, I don't have to hear it all the time.
Right, you got it.
Yeah. It's like, and with her, I feel like sometimes it's like she'll say one word. I remember one of the first words, and it was like around Halloween, and she was saying up. And it was like probably so it was shortly after she was diagnosed. So it was probably after she turned 2. And I was like, oh my God, she's saying up, and she would just say up, 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 up. She would just say it constantly forever. And I'm like, I don't know if she wants me to pick her up. Like, I think it was just something she got out. And so she just was repeating
she's running with it.
And then it was like a month later, never heard it again. Never heard the word up again. And then it was a long time before I feel like we actually heard another actual word. So I realize in those moments that there might be a word that I might hear and then I might not hear it again.
Yes, yeah.
And so I record everything. I try to anyways, and then sometimes I'm like, crap, she's not going to say it. She just said it. She's not going to say it again,
It makes us like, this journey makes us humble.
Yeah.
And not take for granted like these things. And so I feel like for me, it's made me a better like patience. Like patience was not in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
But it's changed me also. I don't know if you feel that way through the process, even with your 3 kids.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned a lot of patience, and I've even had other people tell me, "Oh my God, you're like so patient with her." And sometimes I'm like, "But am I?" Because I was just screaming at all 3 of my kids like an hour ago, which I know we all do.
We all do.
So yeah, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay to scream, but just don't scream all the time. Right?
Drips and drabs.
Right. So the patience definitely has come, and I try to remind myself that I am patient, especially in those moments when I do have like, oh my God, I can't take anymore, and patience. Appreciation probably is another big one. Just appreciating everything from, life, everything we go through, to just appreciating our children and appreciating them for who they are. That's probably a big thing, because I think having my son, my oldest, at such a young age, I really was like oblivious to a lot. I was just, pregnant and having a kid, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to be a mom. And, and then, he was great. He was an easy child, easy baby. Everything was just like, I just scooted through life, and it was so easy with him. And even as a single mom for a little bit with him, it was just easy.
Yeah.
And then, when we met my husband and that was dad for him, it just kind of, it was the 3 of us. But when appreciation really came, like after aging myself and having another child 12 years later, and then, he was just so smart and talking at 2. And then he loves to argue, though, and I think that's because he's so smart. So it's constant arguing.
Is it arguing or is he questioning?
Right. I think he's trying to prove that he's right and you're wrong. So he's like, he won't stop until it's known. So that's a struggle too, you know, but I appreciate that about him because he is so smart. And the argumentative side of him, you know, we butt heads sometimes, and I'm like, why am I arguing? You know,
how did you pull me in?
Yeah. So, and then to having my daughter and, you know, realizing that with the other 2 being so easy as children and babies and infants, and then just day 1 struggles with her and everything I went through, it made me appreciate that I had those other opportunities with my other 2 children too. And I just realized, okay, every single one of them has just given me a different look on life and a different perspective, because even though they're all 3 my kids, they're all so different. And so just learning to appreciate that, but then, like you said, also still having the patience to be able to deal with all 3 different personalities, different
needs, right? Because, you know, one of my children needs like validation. They need it's going to be okay. And the other child is just like, if you don't get away from me, you know.
Definitely.
How do you work that out? Being a wife, you work, you have kids. How do you balance those needs?
I make sure that I do give each of them the time that they need. And I try to remind myself of that. There might be times where I'm like focused on something with my daughter, whether it mean I'm, you know, writing or I'm posting something on Instagram, or, you know, and then my middle boy is sitting there playing his game, and then he's like, Mom, look, because he loves his games. And so he loves to show me, and he knows mom's not a gamer like him, you know, so okay, what?
Take the look.
So just knowing that he just wants me to just give him some attention. And so just reminding myself that, you know, still giving each of them, you know, the attention that they need, and not staying focused on one thing, because my ADD can take over, and then I'm stuck on, you know,
hyper focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Get off of that and on to something else. So making sure that I give each of them the time that they need. On top of that, with my husband too, you know, and he's very good at making sure that he makes time for us too. And he's probably the reason why we do have our times alone or things with each other, because he gives that. He reminds me, like, okay, we need to do this, and, you know, let's go out for a date night or a date.
Husband.
He doesn't get enough credit either. So he definitely is the foundation of our family that helps, you know, keep us all together. And, you know, that support really means a lot, you know, because I know a lot of moms that are single who don't have that. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because having 3 kids is already hard enough, let alone, you know, being a single mom trying to push through that. So I am grateful for him, and I probably don't tell him that enough either. So now it's on.
It's global. It's global.
So now everyone can hear. Yes, I do appreciate, and he will make sure that we do get time just for us, so that, you know, he steals me away. So it definitely helps, because having that support is important. You
Very
know,
important, yeah.
We live in Vegas, and, you know, we don't have much family there. And so a lot of what we do, we really have to make sure, okay, can the 19-year-old handle it? You know, will he be okay if we go do this, you know? Otherwise, my mom has to fly in and stay with the kids, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about something, and again, in life, we do take people for granted because they're just there, right?
Yeah.
You know, day in, day out. And I always tell people, like, if that person were not there, like, let's say, you know, come tomorrow, gone, how much have they brought to your life, right? Like, who's going to drive the kids to school? Who's going to, like, so it is just being grateful for the people, the village that you have
Yeah.
in your life. Because like you said, there's so many moms out there, so many that are just pushing through. And I give you guys credit, like pushing through and making it work.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's not always going to be that help. We don't always have it. Even when we do, we don't ask for it. Sometimes, certain situations, okay, we had that help, but now we don't have that help. And, that can be a struggle. We've had certain situations where we've had babysitters, to be able to help when my son left, because that was a big ball that was dropped on us when he moved out for a short period of time. And we were left with, like, he was the babysitter. And so we didn't have that. And we were like, what are we going to do? And, my husband changed his work schedule and worked day shift, which was not as profitable for him. Okay. But we did it so that we didn't have to worry about trying to find somebody else to come, take care of our kids. And, it's because we're not going to just leave them with anybody. And she works best when she's at home. And so if we have anybody, it's going to be an in-home, come to our home to care for them. And that's hard to find too.
Right.
And plus just somebody that you trust. that can come there. And so we've had different situations happen where that has been a struggle. Sometimes it makes me wonder, should we live closer to different family members? Should we move from Vegas and not live there? But we love Vegas, so we don't want to leave there. So we do what we can to make it work. And, like I said, I'm grateful for my mom for being able to come and stay with the kids and babysit, when we need her. My dad will come sometimes with her. Nice. And that's, of course, they're always going to come because those are their grandkids, but just appreciating all of that. And, and we didn't want to ask her to come. We were like, maybe we should just make the trip with them. But we both looked at each other and we were like, no, this is not going to work. We can't take them with us, so just knowing that we can ask for that help. And, my mom was like, well, if you make it at the right time, I will come and I'll stay and, I'll take care of them. So.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Now talk to me about self-care. What does that mean to you?
So it's, I've been thinking about this, but like all the way since I knew I was going to be on, and I'm like, okay, what? I'm not going to lie.
You're going to remember to ask that question.
So I am a massage therapist, so I do make sure that I consistently, at least once a month, get my monthly massages. Okay. And sometimes she has to come to my house and she has to give me a massage at the house while the kids are there, and it's fine because it's still they'll leave me alone. My daughter might come and try to help, and she'll massage my feet while she's so it's okay. I love it. So other times I'll go to her and get my massage. Another self-care is honestly listening to your podcast. Just it kind of helps remind me of everybody else's story. And so that time to myself, just being able to listen to that and zone everything else out, it definitely helps. The other thing I like to do, I like to write a lot. So I do a lot of writing, and it just on my iPhone or on my iPad, I'll just write whatever thoughts I'm going through, or just whatever. I might write poems about just a situation, or different things will inspire me in that. I do love to draw, so I have my times where I'll sit and draw on my iPad, and on Procreate, that's just amazing. I don't know what I did before that, like draw on paper, and then it's just a totally different experience. So I'm like getting into that more, and I'm trying to make more time for that, because that is one of my passions, and one of the things that I love is to draw. So there'll be times where I might sit and draw, and then I don't draw for like a month, and then I'm like, okay, I got to get back to it.
Back into it.
Yeah.
Now, listeners, I started off by asking her about self-care, and then I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be, but you got a lot of self-care there.
Yeah.
There's a lot, you know.
And I definitely try to make more time for it because I know how important it is. And listening to your podcast reminds me of that. Mm-hmm. So, and I like hearing everyone else's stories and their self-care too, because it reminds me, oh yeah, that could be self-care.
Yeah.
You know, something simple, you know. We love to drink tea, so even just sitting in our backyard, we have a koi fish pond in our backyard, so that's kind of our zen area.
Oh, that's nice.
So we sit back there with the fish and just relax. Even if the kids are back there, they still know if mom's sitting back there, just try to leave me alone. Mm-hmm. Try to give me my minute by the fish. Yeah.
Give some peace. Now, talk to me about anime.
Anime, yeah. So we're big into anime. Both of our little ones are named after anime characters, but we are big into anime. We watch a lot of anime, and we go to a lot of conventions, and we take the kids, we dress up, we cosplay, we do all of that, and we just love the community, and it's expanded so much just from what it used to be like many years ago to where it's kind of like a big thing. A lot of people are into it now. So I know my older son, when he started watching it, he would actually be kind of distant from people, and he wouldn't tell people that he was into anime because back then people would poke fun and make fun and bully, and so I know he would steer away from it, and for a while not really show like his true self. And the middle one and our daughter, the other two kids, they're named after anime, so they can't hide from it.
There's no hiding.
Right. But it's just what we do as a family, and we're big on spending time with our kids, and all of us, you know, being a family. So we actually, when we sit to eat dinner, we don't sit at a dinner table. We sit on the couch and we all watch anime together while we eat dinner. So like that's just what we do. And so it is hard sometimes when the husband's working because then we're trying to find something else to watch, you know, because we have our certain ones we watch together as a family, and then we have other ones that they'll watch when I'm at work. And so, but it definitely brings us together as a family, and we try to, you know, be involved in that community as much as we can because they're very open, and it's just such a diverse community.
That's
so
great.
It's good for our daughter and her having autism. It's like accepted.
Yeah.
And so we just love it, and of course anime is just fun to watch. So
That's great. And I mean, and it sounds like also like self-care too. And it like you said, it brings the family together. It makes you feel good. Now, if there's a mom out there wanting to find you, because you know you're just absolutely amazing, where would that mom search for you?
So I do have an Instagram that I started. It's called Say Autism, and it has my daughter's name in the beginning.
I like that.
So Say Autism. And we have another Instagram. You can click it from there, but it's called Fam Mugen. So it's basically stands for Family Forever because Mugen means infinite. That's our middle son's name. So Fam Mugen is something that's basically for our anime and Family Forever. And we do, you know, stand by that. So I post a lot of like our anime stuff and like when we go to conventions on that one, and we hope to have our business together soon, so that will be launched and posted probably on both of those Instagrams as well. Fam Mugen is just FAMUGEN, so but Say Autism's easy, so you can find it from there too.
All right.
So, and I hope to have more in the future. So just there's lots of things that we want to do that we're trying to start and on a journey, and that is mostly to be able to help our family and you know, financially, just so you know the kids can be set And so we're looking at all different kinds of opportunities for business. I've thought about writing a book or, blogging or podcasting or something. And all of that inspiration came from you. And
oh my goodness, if I was a cartoon character, the head was just like, ooh.
Amina as well. She's
rock
given
star.
me some inspiration. And so all of that is definitely in the works in the future. And our business as a family, that is in the works as well.
Great.
So Say Autism, I started that because my motto for that is hear what isn't said. And that's a big thing to me. It's really important because just with my daughter being nonverbal for so long, I've realized that needing to stop to actually just hear what's not being said.
Right,
And
right.
so it means it's as far as her not speaking and actually just listening to her, because then you can really hear what she's trying to say. But it's also just hear what's not said in the autism community, what people don't talk about, because there's a lot of things that people don't talk about with autism that I think people who are dealing with autism directly can fully understand. And, there's still things that within the autism community, we help each other by talking about it. But it's also about people who are not in the autism community hearing about it, because, our children deserve to be, accepted and respected, because, they're just trying to live their lives as well. So that's my motto in that, and Say Autism and hear what isn't said. It's really important. And I think a lot of times as moms, we look at the future and we focus on that so much that we're not stopping to hear what's being said, or not what isn't being said. What is being said as well, and that's really important, because I know even for my husband and his struggles and how he took the diagnosis, it was really hard on him. And it was because he had a different vision of his daughter. And so he finally had a daughter now, and it felt like it was crushing him and his views of what her life was going to look like. And so I try to even remind him, you can't look at that, because we don't know what that's going to look like. Just like we don't know what it's going to look like for our other two children.
Right.
We focus too much on the future that we don't stop to just,
Stay in the present.
Yeah. And it's really important, because there's so many things that we miss because of that. I realized that in a video I might record of my daughter doing something, and my 7-year-old is over here saying something to me, and I didn't even hear him until I went back and listened to the video. And I'm like, he was trying to tell me something and I wasn't even paying attention. So it's just trying to remind us to just stay in the present, so that you are focused on, what's not being said. So,
well, that's a very important message, and I think that, and you're right. I think a lot of us struggle, with that. Focusing on, will my child be able to do this and that, and what's going to happen when I'm gone, as opposed to the here and now and where they're at. And thank you also for highlighting the father journey, right? Because that's often not talked about, and the experience is, in a sense, a different experience. And what's envisioned. And so, hint, hint, there should be fathers out there, get a badass father. I mean, I don't know if badass, they want to call themselves badass, but, badass father podcast, because it's needed. I've had a lot of fathers come and support, their wife or their girlfriend on the show, and say that there's not much for them. What about them? So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And because I think sometimes in our journey together, there were moments where he was like, I don't know about you, but this is the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. And, he's dealt with some really hard stuff. He's had his brother pass away and his mom pass away. And it was all in this time of our daughter being born. And so he's dealt with a lot, but like he told me, he said, this was the hardest thing. And that like struck me because I was like, wow, this is harder than even finding out about his brother passing.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, that alone is, you know, I mean, I can feel for him because I'm his wife, but, you know, his own experiences
Right.
are his own.
Yeah.
And so I know that those words alone just, I can only imagine, you know? So it's just knowing that everybody's going through stuff, you know, and we can't focus on that future because, you know, we're all here right now. You know?
And it'll make us so anxious, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And it ends up making you worry about things that sometimes we don't even have control over, you know?
Or that don't happen.
Right.
Right? Like, even like I said, with your daughter, you know, you're trying to see if your other son is okay and thinking that it was going to be maybe a meltdown. And it was just like, is it me? Like, what just happened in this universe?
Right. No,
so,
totally.
But those are things. And again, I just appreciate, you know, you shedding a light to the father journey.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite part of the show is talking to that mom out there that feels that she's not good enough, right? She's messing up. She feels she's forgetting things. She's, you know, feeling like, you know, doctors are telling her you don't know what you're talking about, and doesn't feel like she's enough for her kids. What would you tell that mom?
Well, definitely you have to stop and look at yourself and love yourself and know that whatever you're doing all that you can. And if you feel like you're not, then, you know, stop and say, okay, well, what can I do differently? Remind yourself that, you know, we can always do something different, and you don't have to feel like, you know, well, so-and-so told me I need to do this, so I'm going to focus on that. Well, if that's not working, then, you know, find out what does work, but just give yourself the grace and, you know, love that you need, because there's always something that you could do differently, right? But most importantly, you have to hear what isn't said. That's like, I really try to focus on that even when I'm struggling with it, you know, and my husband and I, we had a talk the other night, and I tried to stop and tell him, like, look, like, we can't focus on things, you know, that we're thinking might be happening with our daughter. You know, is she going to live with us forever? Is she going to be able to live on her own? We don't know. So we just need to work on things in the moment and do what we can now to be able to help her live her best life in the best way possible. So just staying focused on hearing what isn't said, listen to yourself. You know, as a mom, you really have to focus on yourself and knowing that you are good enough. You know, the doctors tell you something and you don't agree with it, then stick to that, because we as moms know in our heart what is right for our child. And so just don't ever lose that hope, lose that sight of, you know, you are their mother for a reason. You know, you chose to have that child for a reason. So make sure that you stay focused on your purpose as their mom, and know that if you're giving your child love and all of the therapies and whatever, then that's enough for them.
That's enough.
You know, you don't have to push and feel like I got to do more, and, you know, there's not enough time in the day. We all can think that, you know, but you have to know that, okay, today I did a good job.
Oh, I like that. Today I did a good job. This hour,
Right.
I did a good job.
Right.
I don't know about next hour, but but
it doesn't even have to be the full day. You're right. It's just knowing that, you know, you are doing what you can.
Yeah. And it's a constant battle. It's some days are better than others, right?
Yeah.
We feel like we're on top and we got this. And there's days where you feel like you got, punched in the throat, right? Like, just like, oh my gosh, right? But it's just that getting back up and trying to stay in the moment, recognize and give yourself, like you said, grace.
Yeah.
Like this is tough.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I hear people say, oh, there's no manual for parents. There's no manual for having a child with autism. There's no manual with having other kids with mental health. And there's no manual, you know, it's just, you just do the best you can, right? Each day.
And just knowing that whatever you're doing, it's okay, because maybe somebody does try to tell you, well, why did you do that? Or, well, that's not, that was my choice, and that's okay. It's just reminding yourself that what you do is your choice, and that's okay. And it doesn't matter what other people tell you, And
that's a biggie, right? Like, so whatever you choose to do, because that's your child. Whatever you choose to do with your child is what you do.
Yeah.
So I wish, because this is, they'll be able to see this everywhere. I wish there was some way, maybe we could do it, maybe Ethan, we could do it. We could have like gems like dropping down, because you just like shared so many gems, and it's just like visually coming down and like making this noise and stuff like that. And people like, yay, clapping and stuff, because that was just so beautiful and just so well said. And thank you for sharing your experiences. Sometimes it's hard to like kind of, shed light on things where we felt like, oh, I feel like, I could have done better here. But you freed somebody by sharing your story, right? You said you listened to the podcast, and there was moments where it was just like, ooh, this, okay, maybe I don't have to feel like a bad mom, and maybe I'm not alone in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It really was just, it means a lot for you to bring me here. And I kept thinking, okay, what different things could I talk about, because there's always those moments. Mm-hmm. And, I just wanted to be able to share the important things that I feel like someone else could benefit from, and knowing that everybody's journey is their own.
Yes.
So
yes.
I appreciate you doing this for everyone, and I hope that everyone gets something from what I said.
we color coordinated, but not really. Like, it's like her husband's wearing red, I'm wearing red. I'm like, what just happened here? But again, thank you so much. Thank you for her husband being here to support her and all that you do. Just being a father, being a husband, being a provider. We appreciate you. So on that note, I'm not going to have this huge spiel and song and dance. I'm just going to let you know, listen, you got this. You're good enough. No perfection in this game. Stay fierce, stay determined, and stay courageous. It's all we can do, 1 minute at a time. I'll see you next week.